if you've been living under a rock, then you might not have seen the war.gov release from last week. We haven't, and we can't wait to dive in.
Dave's right. If you have been living under a rock and you don't know what the hell's gone off in the last week, then shame on you. Things have escalated. I think last week when we recorded, that is yet to go out, we spoke about how there was a potential drop coming the day after, and then lo and behold, it did drop. I think it's safe to say there's mixed feelings out in UAP land. What's your thoughts, Dave?
I think I agree. It is very mixed feelings. I've quite enjoyed going through the detail that's been shared. I want to see more. And I want to see more now. Give it to me all. Don't drop it in batches, is kind of how I'm feeling, and it feels like the sense of community. Before we dive in, though, have we got any news? News!
I mean, news. This is the news, isn't it, really?
It is. We're straight in.
The internet is ablaze on it. So come on, like before we start, let's picket it a bit. Like, I know you've gone through some of it, and I've gone through some of it. What's your initial thought? Your initial thoughts coming off the back of it?
I think for me, it's a really interesting mix of files across a really broad stretch of time. There's data from Apollo missions back in the 60s, all the way up to video footage and FBI kind of documentation and photographs all the way up to 2024, 2025, even 2026. So I find that fascinating, the way that they've mixed up what they've shared. And it does make me think, is this just a entree?
Nice way of putting it. A nice way of putting it. I think initially my thoughts where I looked at it, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then me and my partner sat down and watched Chris Ramsey's, and we're going to do something similar. We're going to look at the videos, but he did like a long episode where he kind of looked at every single video. And I kind of came away from it thinking, okay, there actually wasn't as much, I would say, groundbreaking stuff as part of that. But like we were saying before we started to record, mate, like I think this is probably more groundbreaking for normies rather than people that have actually been in the subject, because now we've got the official governmental body in the US acknowledging it, really. Like they've got a website dedicated to releasing the files like they did with Epstein. So there's an acknowledgement there, which is quite big. I would say the documentation is the more interesting stuff. Some of the stuff around the NASA files that have been released, that for me is really quite cool stuff. And obviously the news we're hearing is this week we're going to get another 46 videos. So next week we're going to have a very long episode, potentially.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, I've picked out, like, there's a lot of videos where it's just a glowing object scooting over some terrain, and I've left all of those. There's loads of them. Whilst they are interesting, and the movements and stuff that are interesting, I think the ones that I've picked out for us to kind of analyse, for want of a better word, today are the ones that are a little bit more tasty. There's a little bit more to them. There's a little bit more to see, or not. And I thought we'd get a good balance. So they were the ones that I focused in on. And equally, I've read some of these docs, Kyle. Like I've been through like every page and kind of every document. I've not downloaded them, so some of them I don't know if it's just the front cover, and therefore I've probably missed some content. But sadly, I've got other stuff to do as well, so I can't spend all of my time deep diving these files as much as I want to. But I think what I have seen, I think it was interesting. There was about 20 FBI photos that were clearly all just the same thing. And it was like, you didn't need to do that. You could have just dropped one and then given us 20 other files of 20 different incidents. That would have been better, in my view. And equally, like the kind of PDF docs and stuff, it would have been great if they'd just put the juicy stuff like and done the work for us, so we don't have to go digging. And I know they haven't done that.
Like, I feel the same as you. I was hoping in this drop there was going to be something really, really significant. And I think there has to be an element of tempering expectations. I don't think we're going to get like the missing link photo where we're going to see a body from Roswell. I don't think it's going to be that. I think we're going to see more 4K footage, because there's a point of why I'm bringing this up, like 4K footage where it becomes a little bit more undeniable about some of the things that are operating in the skies. But I think it's going to still leave that question of, well, who's operating them? I still think that that's going to be a question that comes away from this.
Yeah.
I do also think, because they've been open and said, because there's been 2 quotes that have kind of come out, they've said that there is going to be weekly releases. So we're going to expect to have weekly or bi-weekly, or some points maybe even monthly drops, where we're going to get a lot of information all at once, and then the internet does its thing, and they will then point you to the stuff that is of real interest. And I think we're going to get to the significant stuff over time, and I think part of that is probably to acclimatise the general public to what we're talking about. Because if they came out with real shocking, or like to us in the topic, something really significant, that could potentially really affect someone this is just not on their radar whatsoever. Like, interestingly, I had a back and forth with someone from my hometown that I've not spoke to in ages recently, because I shared a video today of the new councillor for Sheffield sat in the chamber saying that Sheffield should have a response to UAPs. That person sent me a message and said, please tell me this is not true. Like, I don't think I can deal with this. So there's that element to it as well, in that I think there is going to be elements where people will struggle to adjust for this. But I think it's still going to be themes. I think it's going to be themes of videos from weapons platforms, but I think there's some colour stuff coming.
Hopefully. I'm looking forward to seeing all of the TR3Bs. In fact, what will be interesting is if they don't share any TR3Bs, and maybe we know that they're government bodies.
Well, I've got a photo that I want to talk to you about on this episode.
Okay.
Which would rule out it being us. But let's get there.
Yes, let's not spoil it. I think I know the photo that you're talking about, Kyle, because I went through a lot last night as I was downloading the ones that I want to share. Okay, without further ado then, let's dive in, guys. So I think, as Kyle and I had talked about this, I'm going to share some videos first, and we'll pop them up in order in the edit for you guys. I've kind of labelled them. So up first, we are going to Iraq. Now, this particular video was filmed in 2022 over a weapons platform. And you'll see it's quite a short clip. It's only 11 seconds, but basically the object that you'll see moving across the screen moves across the kind of moving camera, just in a kind of clear straight line. But it's clearly, I'm going to kind of pause it and have a look at it. It's clearly not a plane. It's clearly, it looks like an orb of some sort. It looks to have some presence. It doesn't look like there's any sort of vapor trail behind it. It looks to be quite low down near the complexes below, certainly between whatever the apparatus is that's recording and the ground level over Iraq. So I found this one quite interesting. It wasn't just like a dark scene. This was, potentially a military operation or, a surveillance operation in this area. And, they've just happened upon this object, whatever it was. And this one for me kind of stood out. And it was the first of kind of the first few of the videos that stood out for me. And kind of, I thought, yeah, let's take that one in. What do you think of this one, Kyle?
I like the detail on it. I think it's quite a small object. It literally is a blink and you'll miss it because it's so small. I think that having to think of like more standard things that it could be, it's not a plane, it's not a balloon, you've got no parallax, it's a fixed position, it's moving, it's not moving incredibly fast, it's a straight line. I mean, it's definitely anomalous, we don't know what it is, but it's not doing anything exciting. But is that more of a view of how spoilt we've been with some of the other stuff that we've seen? And I think, again, like to quote what I was saying before, I think there's probably a lot more exciting stuff to come. And I think, is this a let's start to warm people up. These little glowing orbs. It does remind me of some of the orbs that were spoke about in the past, but it looks so tiny in regards to like the backdrop. Like you can see, like if you look at that, I mean, there's cars on the road, right? So if you kind of look at the scale of the cars opposed to what's flying across, it's going to be about as big as a football. It's not going to be big. It's going to be really small.
It's really small, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, quite interesting.
I just want it to do a right angle turn. Because if that did, in all seriousness, if that did a right angle turn, with the fact that the background is static, if that did a right angle turn, that changed this completely for me, because it shows it's under intelligent control, and it's doing things that are impossible. It's that frustration of what does it do when it's out of frame?
Yeah. A question though, Kyle. Actually, if you watch, and I'm just watching it back, and for you guys, we're recording this. I'm just watching it over and over again, and I think if you just watch where the white roof is, it speeds up.
Just rewind that again.
Like this area here, it almost seems to speed up. I don't know if it's a trick of the camera. Do you know what I mean? The frames going against it. But I'll play it again from like the middle. It almost looks like it speeds up.
It does.
You get like a little bit of a trail off of it. Can you see here?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. So I don't know if that
against the frames, doesn't it? A little bit like it has. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Right. That's number one. I'm hoping we get better from there. So up next is number two. Now, this one is filmed over Greece in 2023. Now, it wasn't clear whether this was a weapons platform or not, but what you guys will see on the screen is it's almost going through different filters within the kind of whatever the equipment is and kind of zooming in. Now, this one's a lot more dynamic than what we've just watched. And I found, I love these ones where the military, assuming it is military, the people that are operating it are tracking it. I find this fascinating because they're clearly, trying to keep up with these things, and they move at such pace. It looks like it might be over the water, with kind of cloud cover in between it. So it must be up in the atmosphere as well, but it does seem to be a lot more dynamic, and it's tracked for a good amount longer. This particular video goes on for around a minute. But I found this one quite interesting. I know it's a glowing orb, and I did say that I'd left most of them out. This one stood out. It was filmed over Greece, and then the kind of different camera filters that they put over here at the end, and you can't see it under certain conditions. I found that fascinating.
If you go back to the beginning, I'm going to steal this from. I watched Chris Ramsey's crazy thorough video where he goes through these. If you just pause it there, if you go back. In fact, if you just take it back a little bit and then pause it.
Just there,
right, just there. And this bit for me, and it's back to the point you literally just made at the end there, which is what he was saying was, you can see that the operator, because they're looking at the same piece of sky with two different approaches. On the right hand side it looks like it's almost infrared and we can see it, but on the other side it's more normal view and you can't see it. So there's something masking itself on this one, and it is quite interesting. And then when you play it and you move it on, it's got like a protrusion at the bottom. You can almost see that here. Yeah, like it's jutting down towards the bottom. And I think this one is filming up rather than down. Yeah, because it looks as
we
though
can see the
we've got the sky. Because there's another one where they've got one like this, and I think it's going against the sea, and it looks as though there's a reflection. But again, the problem is we don't know where this is, and we don't actually know if we are looking up or down. We're having to kind of assume, really. The parallax problem becomes an issue here as well, because you get to certain points and the clouds disappear, so you can't actually tell again, is it the speed of the thing that's actually moving, or is it the background? Which is, it's a bit of a problem with that one. So yeah, it's definitely weird. It's definitely weird. I know what the debunkers are going to say about that straight away. It's a balloon. They're going to look at that and they're going to say that looks like a balloon. And
I mean, it looks like it's shifting for a balloon. Obviously, we bring curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. I wouldn't say that is a balloon because of the speed it's moving, but you already know that that's what they're probably going to say about that one. And I think this is the frustration with it, mate. Like, because I know this is going to be more of a bit of a back and forth about this. Is we're hoping for definitives where you can't look at something and go, it's a bird, it's a balloon, it's a plane. We're looking for something to go, I really don't know what that one is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
100%.
And I think that's this initial drop that's where I think there's some frustration of it's the same stuff we've seen before. It's blobs on a screen, can't see anything, don't know where it's going. Why is it not doing anything interesting where it goes, whoop, right angle turn? Because it sounds daft, but as soon as something makes a right angle turn, you know that somebody's steering it.
I mean, we say that, but we went through some other footage that's already been released with footage where things are doing right angle turns, and it's still, laughed at in the wider community. But equally, clip, you referenced that clip not too long ago, Kyle. I watched that clip. I read about it in the news this morning about the Sheffield councillor talking about, the UAP stuff in kind of whatever the chamber was. Of the council, suggesting that maybe for Sheffield Airport, which is nearby to where, it's kind of a Yorkshire airport, everybody else in the room was laughing, but the man himself, the councillor, was stating facts. He was talking about NASA and recommendations made by NASA, and there was just people laughing around him like he was a lunatic. Even now, in 2026, even with these kind of, government-issued statements and mandates.
He's so far away from the mainstream, Matt. But the good news is, if that is happening in our little town, it is getting noticed. It's just not getting. It needs more widespread impacts, really. And I really do hope that the stuff that's coming is the one that will potentially start to shake stuff loose.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the truth's got to come out. It's got to come out.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we got next?
Move on. Right. So up next, we are back in the Middle East. So this one was filmed in 2013, and I thought this was interesting. Now, this one's had a lot of kind of speculation around it. So you guys, you might have already seen this on some other channels if you're deep into the topic. If not, this one is quite interesting. I think the shape, obviously there's no colour, but the shape is absolutely striking. And I think within the camera footage, it doesn't look like, I don't know if it's a vapour trail, but there's definitely a trail behind it as it's moving, and you can see that almost kind of continues to exist behind it, certainly through this particular camera type. Now, I don't think they changed the camera style for this one, which is a shame because it would have been good to see this in a few different ways. But I think I found this one fascinating, and like I say, this is probably the most controversial of the videos that have come out within the footage that's been shared so far.
You see, you can just see now what I was telling you about. Can you see it?
Yeah.
How kind of so for the viewers, I actually shared this one online when it came out because it is the most striking of, I think, the videos. It's the Chandelier. It's known as. It's the Chandelier UFO. This had a still shared of it via Jeremy Corbell last year as a video that he was aware of, that he wanted the government to release, and obviously it's come as part of the first drop. Now, when you are watching it and you get to around 1 minute 10 seconds in, there's a shadow that appears at the top and it goes around it. I'm not saying that it is a parachute, but the shadow looks remarkably like a parachute, and it seems to act in a way where the wind is carrying it. So there's a lot of people online saying that this may be a flare with a parachute attached to it, but we don't know. We still don't know. We've got little to no information, but it does have, like, see that bit there? I'm literally pointing out on the screen right now as we watch it, the look of how it kind of moves against where the parachute is potentially going. The vapor trail also was a bit weird because it looks as though it's got propulsion. But again, we don't know. We don't know. Is the refraction of the actual UFO itself, the chandelier effect, is that some kind of light source, and that's the reason why it's flaring? Potentially, maybe. We don't know. That's the point, I suppose. And that's why I watched this one, loved it. Then I saw Chris Ramsey, and he pointed this out, and I was a bit like, oh man. It was that moment of, God.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't buy it. Because it happens a few times, and if it was something like that, it would happen much more consistently, in my view. I think equally, and Kyle, I know you put out a short on UAP Network earlier this week.
Yeah.
This bears a striking resemblance to what you shared that was captured over Ukraine, was it?
Ukraine last year. That video was released this week via the Defence Ministry. They released one last year that happened in 2024, and then they've released one this year that happened in 2025, and there's a weapons platform, and it's looking down, and it kind of turns, and it sees this. It's so strange. I sent to you look up Ezekiel's wheel. When you look at it compared to Ezekiel's wheel, it's very, very, very similar. I might be able to pop a photo in the edit for you guys so you'll get to see, but we'll also drop a link in the description so you can go back and have a look at the short if you haven't managed to see it yet, because I think, like I say, it bears a striking resemblance to this particular video. So, yeah. Okay, any closing thoughts on that? Are you feeling sceptical about it? I am. If I'm honest with you, with that one, I really loved it. And then as the days have gone on and I've looked at it more, I'm more inclined to say it's probably something a bit more prosaic. But that's fine. Like, it's part of the fun, right? It's part of the fun of figuring out what this stuff is. And we need to have that objective eye. We can't just see this stuff and just think, yes, an alien is driving that. We have to have some objectivity. And I honestly believe, because I've seen certain things, I think some of the stuff that's coming later this week, we will be a little bit more categoric, I think. Okay.
Let's hope so. No spoilers on UAP Network. We're going to wait until it drops. Okay, up next, we are back in the Middle East, this time 2020. So for those of you guys that remember COVID time, right? We were all in lockdown, and these lovely things were all over the place. So this is looking across a landscape, it looks like to me, and then across the water, and then we are tracking this object which is moving very fast in my view, and it's not skipping across the water, but it looks like it's flying low against the water at a rapid rate of knots. Can't see any apparent vapor trail. The camera looks like it's almost struggling to keep up with it as it's kind of moving, but you're starting to get a bit of movement in it, and I think this one stood out for me. You won't necessarily get in the right angles, but for the shape and size of it, it looked interesting. It looked like one we should probably have a bit of a dive into. What's your thoughts on this one, Kyle? We run this one for 1 minute and 35 seconds. I don't think there's anything particularly more exciting than what's happening, but I think out of all the videos released, it was a good one.
Yeah, it's a distant light. It's travelling across the water. It seems to be moving at a decent pace. It seems to be. It seems to have got some direction it's heading towards. It's hard to tell the size of it because, again, we don't know distance or anything. I mean, it's obviously weird. It's not got any wings. It's not got any. There's no obvious signs of propulsion. It's not like the wind seems to be carrying it. It seems to kind of grow in shape a little bit towards the end as well. It kind of like almost pulses a little bit. It's definitely not anything you can easily identify it as.
Yeah, doesn't look like a conventional aircraft with a propulsion system. It doesn't look like a winged aircraft with propellers, for example, or a helicopter or something like that. So definitely a strange one. Definitely an interesting one. And like I say, I thought we should kind of do it. I can't say one way or another. It almost looks to me, there's points where it looks almost a little bit opaque, a little bit shimmery. Just within kind of the object itself. As it comes to the end, you're quite right. I don't know if it's been zoomed in a little bit by the operator of the camera, but yeah, quite interesting. Okay, that's number 4. We're going to dive to number 5 now. So this one is a little bit more interesting. So this one is only a 10-second clip, and it was filmed over the East China Sea, so off to the side of India. And you'll see here, like I say, it's a 10-second clip. It's quite an interesting object that's being filmed. I'd like to sit in colour. You can't really see an awful lot, but it's not your conventional, this is an orb, or anything of that kind of nature. This is definitely much more interesting in terms of its shape. Like I say, I really want to see the colour of some of these things. Like, is this a transparent, translucent object that you can kind of part see, part not see? Is it almost like cloaked or something? I want more detail on this one, but I find the shape of it really fascinating. How about you, Kyle?
It's I do like this one. It was, I think, again, it was the length of time we've got on the video. It's not a lot at all, but it's how it seems to be moving, or
it does look like there's movement.
It's like it's shimmering. It's like the surface is reacting in some way. It's like almost looks like there's a fin down the side and it's rippling. It's rippling against something. It looks, and this sounds ridiculous, it looks alive. It looks alive. I found this one fascinating. By the time this comes out, the new drop will have happened, and the theme of things like this looking alive might be more of a thing, I think, next week. And
I wouldn't be surprised by that. I think on some of the channels that I watch, and Kyle, we watch similar channels sometimes over the years, there's been an awful lot of, civilian footage of things that definitely are unexplained and unexplainable in the moment, where, it's almost looked like a biological creature, object, whatever it is. And I think, it could be in those realms. Yeah, I really like this one. I think this was one of the biggest bombshells, I think, within the videos for this particular drop. We'll just watch it through again. What's your final thoughts on this, Kyle?
Odd, really odd. It's a strange one, that one, the movement of it. I'd love to know more. Again, it's a bit of a theme. I just wish there was more to it. More to be seen. It's like a tease, this drop. It feels like a tease.
It does. Like an appetizer. Nice.
Hors d'oeuvre.
It's good.
A UAP hors d'oeuvre.
Let's get your taste buds going. Good. Okay. And up next, we're staying in the same region, this time Japan. So this one is 2 minutes of footage, but it's multiple objects, this one. So I think, from remembering the description, I'm sure it said it was covering 3 objects, but I think what I found striking about this was objects that were grouped together, and then the way they were moving together, and the footage that was taken. Like I say, this was over Japan, and it was in 2023 that this was observed and captured. And I think, like the last one we've just looked at, this one was probably one of the more interesting videos that was dropped within the total set. I'm not sure what to make of it. I think it's interesting. Obviously, they look to be zoomed in an awful lot because the camera movement is, really kind of struggling to keep it steady. But it's definitely, I'm going to drop a term I never use, it's high strangeness.
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of categorize it. Really, I do think the movement is from the operator. I don't think that the jerking around. I think it's the stabilization of trying to keep the
Yeah,
platform
agreed.
kind of steadied against what these things are. But you're seeing three items in the sky flying in formation for me, in very close formation as well, closer than
Yeah,
our aircraft could fly in formation without
yeah,
causing a very
yeah,
expensive accident.
yeah. Your body's right. No, well, your ego's right and checks your body can't cash.
One of the greatest
Talk
lines
to me,
ever written for
goose,
film. Yeah, talk to me,
mate.
Goose. But they're way too close for anything that we would have.
Yeah,
I think there's also rules in regards to how close aircraft can get to each other. These look like they're almost
yeah, I
touching.
believe so. Yeah,
It's weird. It's weird. I just
fascinating.
again, like I'm sat here though, wishing all three would just all of a sudden go off in different directions. I think this is the theme of it
Yes.
for me. The videos for me weren't the big parts that I found interesting. I watched them, found them
Yeah.
intriguing. It was more the documentation and that I took away. I was like, okay, that's the bit that's doing it for me. And I honestly believe, and I keep saying it this episode, I think next week that will flip on its head for me.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Right. This is the last one, Kyle, that I brought from the videos. So this footage, it doesn't tell you where the location is. What it is an army video, and it's clearly at the beginning. The video is tracking one of the American military drones, and as that shoots off, I think they call them Reaper drones. This object flies overhead, which you guys will be able to see on screen. And you kind of tracing these two lights. At the beginning, it doesn't look like they're two lights, but as they kind of zoom in on it and follow it, it's following two lights, like car headlights kind of coming towards you. And it's tracking it. There's no sense of where it is. I'm assuming it's in the sky. But there's not really an awful lot of detail for this one. But I did find it fascinating. And I think probably more so from the initial part of the video. Now, is this two things flying together very fast? When you see this portion of the video that we're looking at right now, we're kind of 48 seconds in, it almost looks like the lights are closer together and then separate a little bit. There's almost a change in like pitch position between the two lights. I don't know if that's one kind of, solid vehicle that's moving in that direction. For me, it looks like two things traveling together very fast. What do you think?
First thing, I'm nicking this from Chris Ramsey because it was so funny when he said it. He put this on and he said it looks like it's Harry and Ron and they're late to Hogwarts and they're trying to find the parking spot at Hogwarts. I couldn't stop laughing.
Very good.
I was like, that was brilliant. So before we came on and we were talking about this one, I said you see it tracking the Reaper drone shoots out, and then you see these two lights, and at first you're kind of like, oh yeah, and then you get to about 40-50 seconds in, and it does look like there's a vapor trail behind it, and I was like, is that the backside of a jet? Maybe. I mean, the only counter argument to that would be if they're on a weapons platform, no doubt they're going to get access to radar, so they would know whether it would be a plane or not. But again, that's a massive assumption. We don't know what we don't know. We've only got to be able to take this on face value. And on face value, it looks like two items flying quite close together, again, at pace. So it's weird because when we've looked at videos in the past, it's not. These aren't. It's very strange. The curious. You say every week we're curious, and we have to be curious because we're seeing things that can't be explained away. But it's not categorical. We're not seeing something that's making you go, "Holy crap! What is that?"
Yeah.
I want the holy crap moment. That's what I want.
Fair.
I want the holy crap moment. And I think it's coming. And I genuinely think it's coming.
Fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed. Okay, that's it. In terms of the ones that I found most interesting, we will drop a link in the description so you guys can go and have a look. I think it's war.gov/UFO, and you can access all of the videos and the files there. Kyle's going to walk us through some of the files that we've both been kind of working through this for the past week ourselves, but Kyle's going to walk us through the files next. So Kyle, I'll stop sharing my screen if you want to dive in for yours.
I'll
see what you've brought.
I'll share mine, but before I do, one of the first things I found, have you heard of the Twining memo?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really famous document. Now,
yep.
Why is this significant? So the Twining memo was a memo that was written by General Nathan Twining. It was written in 47, and it was the general responding to things that had been seen. It was never redacted. It was something you could find online. If you were to search for it, you would find the memo, and you'd find the memo on itself.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share it in a sec. But they've released the Twining memo as part of this drop.
That's interesting.
And it is for very, very, very important reasons, I think. So the Twining memo was written around the early Cold War. But what happened around that period was you had Roswell, and it was the army were responding to many different things at the time in regards to what these things were being seen in the sky. And when you go onto the drop, so I did click on the download link, and you get cover photos, and when you hit the link and download, you get whole heaps of documents, and I'm going to show you one in a sec. But I found the Twining memo as part of the drops. And I'm like, the reason why I think this is important is they've released certain elements of documents from right when this conspiracy began, and the Twining document was one of the first documents. As you can see, September the 23rd, 1947. This is just over a year after Roswell, which was, I think it was July 46. And as you can see here, what the general is saying is, it is the opinion that the phenomena reported is something real and not visionary or fictitious. There are objects probably approximating the shape of a disc or such appreciable size to appear as large as a man-made aircraft, and there is a possibility that some of the incidents may be caused by natural phenomena such as meteors. The reported operating characteristics such as extreme rates of climb, manoeuvrability, and action which must be considered evasive when sighted. That's interesting because that's the observables we've spoke about before. Like, this is where these came from. The apparent common description of the apparatus follows: metallic or light reflecting surface, absence of trail, circular elliptical, several reports of well-kept formation flights, normally no associated speed, no associated sound, level of flight speeds normally above 300 knots. This is all the observable stuff which has been talked about for a while, and this is where it came from. So I think the Twining memo, for me, them actually releasing this as a part of the official drop is almost like an acknowledgement of sorts, that early on, like, this is how we have been measuring it, and this is how we continue to measure it. And I think this is almost a bit of a nod to say, more's coming, and this is the start of us actually opening the kimono, and really coming forward with the truth. There's all sorts of documents in here when you get stuck into it, as you can see here. But the Twining one for me was a big one. Like, I wanted to talk about that because I heard about the Twining memo when I first got stuck into this, when I was probably a boy. Like, I remember reading the Twining memo, and like I said, you could find it. I think it was like an official leak of sorts, but now it's been acknowledged as part of this. Quite a big deal to see that. So that was the first one. I mean, have you got any thoughts on that as I find the next link?
I think it is interesting. It's interesting placing that in and amongst all of this other data that's been shared. I think you're right. It probably does add a level of credibility beyond some of the things that could be shared. And I think you're quite right. It is perhaps a kind of nod and acknowledgement back to, you know, those times where everybody was kind of taken off by men in suits. You cannot talk about this, you know, and these reports happen all the time. If you're into the media in this space, especially in the YouTube space, you know, some of the guys based in America have the opportunity to interview these poor people that have kind of had their entire lives put in fear, kind of to not talk about these things. You know, all of the kind of big names in the space in America have generally all had those conversations with those guys. So I won't name any names because I don't want any men in black suits knocking on my door. Thank you very much. Although I'm sure men in black suits, Kyle would like a beer with you.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I'll invite him round. Just don't make me lose my memory. So, like, this is where we get stuck into. So the next few is the reasons why I found the documents more. I actually found them more significant than the videos, because this one here, Gemini 7. So Gemini 7, I'm going to butcher this, but basically Gemini 7 was one of the early pre-Apollo space programs where we were sending people up into orbit. And this is a back and forth between Gemini 7 and Houston. And I'm going to cut to it, but basically you've got the astronaut Borman, where he's saying, we've got a bogey at 10 o'clock high. And Houston come back and say, is that a booster or is that a natural sighting? And basically Borman comes back and says, this is an actual sighting. They ask for estimated distance or size. And then he actually comes back and says, we have the booster in sight. So it's not the booster. Understand you've got the booster in sight. We have very, very many. It looks like hundreds of little particles going by to the left at about 3 to 4 miles. They acknowledge that. And then Borman kind of comes back and says, it looks like the path of a vehicle at 90 degrees. They come back and they acknowledge it again. And this is the bit where he says, they've passed now. They're going into polar orbit. Yeah. Again, fascinating. These were the early astronauts going into orbit on of Earth. We've just started to get out there. They're seeing things that are following us and going into orbit. Yeah. I read that one and I was like, wow. Because there's always, one of our early episodes, what was your acronym for NASA? Never a straight answer. Well, all the times that they've denied that there's anything going on, we've got the actual astronauts' transcripts, which are going a little bit against that. Then we've got Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Yeah. Apollo 11. So I'm going to kind of skim to it. It's like they're going back and forth, making sure that they've got their story and they're understanding what the stories were, so that they kind of saw the same thing. And Armstrong says, we should say that it was right at the limit of resolution of the eye. It was very difficult to tell what shape it was, and there was no way to tell the size without knowing the range, or the range without knowing the size. So again, like they're trying to figure out how big this thing was. Yeah. Aldrin comes back and says, so then I got down in the LEB and started to look at for the optics. We were grossly misled because with the sextant off focus, what we saw appeared to be a cylinder. Armstrong replies, or really 2 rings? And Aldrin replies, yes. Neil Armstrong, 2 rings, two connected rings. And then the third astronaut, Collins, comes in and says, it looked like a hollow cylinder to me. It didn't look like 2 connected rings. You could see this thing tumbling, and when it came around eye on, you could look right down into its guts. It was a hollow cylinder, but then you could change the focus of the sextant, and it was replaced by this open book shape. It was really weird. And then Aldrin comes back and says, I guess that's not too much more to say about other than it wasn't a cylinder. Now, the thing about Buzz Aldrin, he came back and he was the only open one of them to say, because he came back and was straight into the UFO topic. Neil Armstrong really wasn't. Yeah, and there's the famous press conference that Joe Rogan always talks about it, where they're in front of the press and they're getting quizzed about things, and Neil Armstrong was acting like he was having to be really careful what he said. And he came back and he started doing crazy stuff, and he got fascinated, I think, with the pyramids.
Yeah.
Now that is something, and this is on the most recent Jesse Michaels interview, is experiencers tend to get obsessed with the pyramids.
Yeah. It's really fascinating.
This stuff for me,
and we touched on this in a recent episode as well, right? The pyramids and the links.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Like this is why I keep saying it. This is why the documents for me are of more importance than, for me, really any of the videos for this drop. We've then got Apollo 12. And I can't really find this, so I'm going to just shoot forward, and then we're into photos. So you've got the Apollo 12 transcript, and then you've got the actual photos from Apollo when they were on the surface of the moon.
And now, this was Apollo 12, wasn't it? So the transcript is kind of describing these objects and the multiple objects, if I remember from the transcript, because I've read some of these transcripts, and I've been watching a bunch of other content over the week as well, Kyle, as I know we both have. I watched a very interesting breakdown by a body language specialist and a behavioural psychologist, who I also watched some of his kind of breakdowns of the Epstein files, which was interesting. And that's kind of how he shows up in my new YouTube feed. But he was breaking down that particular interview that we've just touched on and talking about the different body language. And if you're looking at the way that, Collins and Armstrong are versus Aldrin, and the way that they're closing off, like the body language, the hand signals, and the kind of reticence to speak and such, really underpins exactly what you've just described there, Kyle. So interesting, fascinating stuff.
And all the stuff that comes up about the moon. And did you watch? So this is one for anybody to go away and watch. Recently, the new Artemis astronauts were in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. Donald Trump gets quizzed about UFOs, and the two lead astronauts flash each other a glance. Not a glance of smirks, not a glance of eye rolls, a very short, sharp glance. When he talks about UFOs, they just look at each other and they look away. Like an acknowledgement of sorts. And then we get this.
We shouldn't answer this question.
Yeah, like we don't want to be talking about this. Almost like, did they see something too? And when you see photos such as this, which I'm showing on my screen, which is the first one from Apollo 12, you're up on the moon, there's nothing supposed to be there, and then there's a blue tower.
Yeah.
Is it a... I mean, it's weird. When you look at it there, it's almost like refracted light. But then when you zoom in, it looks like some kind of strange squid. Yeah.
Strange, isn't it?
Right on the horizon. So that's not far away from them.
No.
At all.
To be honest, I'm not sure that these are new, these ones.
No, they're not.
I've seen these before. People have been digging into these photos for a long time since the Apollo 12 photos were released. It's just always been denied.
That's the point.
So it's really interesting. Yeah.
That's
they're now not being denied.
Exactly. So now we have on record the astronauts saying that they've seen something that they didn't understand. We've got the Twining memo. And now we've got, as part of the drop, the photos that everybody's agonised over for years going, is this UAP? Well, yeah, it's part of the governmental drop for UAP. And there's been people saying, these stars, the cameras they took up were specially made so they didn't pick up the backdrop of stars, which is why you look at these and you're going, what? Oh, I mean, that is a triangle, mate. And then you've got two things over here, but that is a triangle. Then you've got this one. The hell is that? That's, again, that's close.
Yeah.
And then this one was the big one that everybody's been showing. Where you've got multiple things.
And I think that one that's up in Area 3, that almost looks like the first image, like the tower image.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's just kind of my interpretation of it as I looked at this one versus kind of the first image. It's like we've got a group of those kind of weird tower things, whatever they are, towers in inverted commas. some similar coloration, but yeah, fascinating that there's, you know, what, 5 anomalies within that one photograph. I bet they were excitedly nervous sat on the moon.
Yeah. Like, imagine being that far away, and then if something kicked off with something you don't understand, no one's coming to save you. You're on your own. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
of course. I'd be petrified.
Yeah. The last thing's Apollo 17, so we've got some highlighted bits where you've got the astronauts kind of going back and forth with Houston again. We've got a very few bright particles or fragments or something that go drifting by as we maneuver. There's a whole bunch of big ones on my window down there. They're just bright. It looks like the 4th of July out of Ron's window. And it says, yes, you can now see them in shape, the very jagged, angular fragments that are tumbling. And they look like fluid of some sort. They look like pieces of something. They're very bright. For the most part, these fragments are not, or are tumbling at a very slow rate. I've tried to take a couple of pictures of them, different settings. You may get an idea of what at least the patterns look like. There are a number of possibilities. If you have some kind of got an impression that they were curved a little, insane. It goes on and on and on about these particles just hanging out around the vehicle. And then the next photo is the one. Again, I saw it and I was like, wow, because is that or is that not a triangle spotted from the moon's surface?
It certainly looks like it, doesn't it? And I knew this was the photo. You guys, this is how we started the video. We were talking about this, and I knew it would be this photo because, you know, we've both been through these. I have personal experience with, you know, seeing a triangular craft in my own personal life. I think it's fascinating. You know, is it ours? Well, maybe not in the 1960s, you know, when was Apollo 17, 1967 or something. I've probably just got the date 100% wrong there, so drop me a comment and let me know what the right date was. Sorry, guys. But I think it's fascinating that even in a location so far away with, you know, nobody else around, you're still seeing those kind of weird objects like, you know, like a triangular craft. What's your favourite photo out of those then, Kyle? Is it the triangular one?
It was, but it ended up being the blue tower thing. The blue tower just looks so strange, and the distance of where it is to the astronauts, and how clear you would have seen that up there, in the middle of the night sky, like. I find it insane, but if you want to know what my favourite one from all the drops were, it's probably the Apollo 11 transcript. Just with everything that goes on with the Apollo 11 lore, and did they know, did they not know, did they see something, did they not, to see that and see them trying to figure it out, that for me was the big one from this drop. How about you?
Okay, I think we've not even touched on the one that's my favourite text drop. Now, on the final page of the downloads, on page 16, there is 2 files PDF. One is USPA statement about a UAP sighting that is described. And I think it underpins the FBI photos that I talked about. And then there is a Western US event. Location, Western US, time of day, dusk on 2 separate days. 3 teams of 2 federal law enforcement special agents, each USPA 1 through USPA 6, independently describe seeing orange orbs in the sky, emitting / launching smaller red orbs in groups of 2 to 4, with 3 being the general consensus. This started to have occurred at least 5 times, and each time the orange orb would appear, launch some red orbs, and then disappear. The orange orb was only visible for 1 or 2 seconds, and the red orbs would generally move away from the mother orb, if you like, in inverted commas. But in a couple of instances, one red orb was stated to move heading up at an angle, whilst another witness stated that sometimes the red orbs would swoop down after being launched from the larger orb. These events were witnessed by multiple teams from varying locations and vantage points over a 2-day period. Due to the sequential nature of the events, it's not known whether it was a single orange mother orb that released the groups of red orbs, or whether they were multiple orange orbs at play.
Jeez.
And I found that last night. I went, wow!
What the hell? It's insane. Yeah. I honestly, I mean, before I start speaking, I'm going to ask you the question. With where we're at, and bear in mind, since when we started this channel, like we both said that we felt like 2026 something felt like something was going to happen. And as much as I've sat here and I've kind of lambasted probably the first drop, but I've given my reasons as to why I think it's going to be a slow drip. How are you feeling with how this year's going with this stuff, and where do you think it's going?
I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times. I am a little bit nervous of a false flag event.
Yeah.
I think the wider political landscape makes this a great distraction for the horrors that our elected governments like to carry out on each other. You know, I'm just a simple human, and I like to offer a level of respect for all other humans, irrelevant of kind of culture or creed. And I like to think that everybody else kind of has that same feeling. And I remain nervous, but there's something else at play, and this is just a smokescreen. Now, taking off my tinfoil hat, we've already had a lot this year in the wider community, in video footage, in the community growth as well. Like, you're really seeing that a lot globally. So, I don't know. I'm apprehensively excited to see what comes next, but with an edge of caution around, is there an undercurrent that underpins this? How about you?
Okay. I'm probably not as apprehensive. Where does that come from? It comes from a place of, I think I said it last week, dirty disclosure is still disclosure.
yeah, you did.
It's still getting to a point where we're getting probably the answers. I think governmental bodies, I think they need to accept it for various reasons. I think there is political pressure that is being put on them to make this come to light, and I think there's an acknowledgement of, if you don't believe, you're never going to believe. And I think the general public at large is probably at the closest point it's ever going to be to accept some of this stuff. I also think there's players in the UAP community that have the information, and they are trying to force their hands. I've referenced Sleeping Dog, the documentary that Jeremy Corbell released this week. I'm yet to watch it. Hopefully I'm going to be able to watch it soon. The rumours are that he's done that to give him more protection, because I think there's more pressure growing on Jeremy. But I think it's moving towards, I think this is the disclosure plan. I think there's been a plan in place, and I think this is them being pushed to enact the plan from certain parties and whistleblowers that are coming out, because you can only get away with calling people a liar and killing people before it gets a little bit too much. The missing scientists, for example, and the people that have been suicided. The pressure inside the Congress is growing. Yeah, like Burchett often says that if certain people come out and tell the truth, they commit suicide by shooting themselves 10 times in the back of the head. He actually said that on Joe Rogan as well. He's such a cool guy. Like, he wants it out.
Yeah.
He wants it out. And don't forget the political pressure that will come along with the fact that the US government is literally slush funding this with trillions of dollars that have got no accounting on at all, in a time where austerity is growing across the world. So I think the political pressure is there. I think they're being backed into a corner, but I still think there is a contingent that are fighting against it, hence the reason you've got people going missing. But they're being dragged along. And I think they're being dragged along because of the religious connotations that comes along with this. I think we're getting there. I think there were rumours about Steven Spielberg's film coming in June. There were rumours about something happening in May. There were rumours about certain things starting the process. Everything of this has kind of been proven to be true. We are now in the middle of disclosure for all intents and purposes. I think this is what it is. I think this is their slow drip feed disclosure. And I think there are people that are wanting to push it along quicker, which is why, like, for example, there was 46 videos that they wanted releasing. They weren't going to release them. Literally, Jeremy Corbell has released 8 of those videos in his documentary because he was like, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And he's done it. And those 8 are going to be part of the drop, which we're going to get hopefully this week. So I think I am optimistic. I think this is what we're moving towards it now, mate. I think this is what's coming. There will be motives. There always is. There's always going to be an agenda. It's taking out of this what's important to us, and then what it means to us as people once the dust settles. And I honestly don't think it's really gonna upset the general population at large, because I think a lot of people will get scared by it and they'll bury their head in the sand because they're never going to get they've never been impacted by it, and they will continue to not be impacted by it. So I don't think it'll matter for us.
No, that's a fair way to look at it.
Yeah, that's what I really feel. I really feel that. And then the exciting thing for me, Dave, the exciting thing is where my real love of this subject comes in, which is once we get to that point where we accept that there are things in the sky, it's the wider implications of that and what does that mean. Because I would love to do an episode with you where we sit down and we don't have any cases, and we sit down and we go, right, it's acknowledged now. So what do you think is going on? Who's driving it? Where do you think they come from? What's your thoughts on potentially where this might go? That's where you get to have a little bit of fun with the subject. And also, there's a little bit of scary stuff that comes along with it as well. Because once you accept that these things are in the sky and somebody is driving these things, and they are coming in to our airspace without being threatened, you are then into the realm of, what does alien abduction mean then? What is that about? What impacts comes along with that? That's when you're into the really gnarly stuff, which I think naturally will come once we get this bit out of the way. My soapbox is going away.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, great. Kyle, thanks for sharing those. I've really enjoyed today's episode. Guys, let us know, what did you think? Drop a comment below. Do you think it's all a load of tosh, or are you bought in? Let us know your thoughts. Which of the videos did you like? Which of the documents did you like? Have you seen something else that we should see? Drop us a comment, let us know. If you've got experiences similar to what's been shared, drop us an email, contact UAP Network at gmail.com. We'll drop it up on the screen like we normally do in the edit. It's also in the video description, so don't hesitate. I check the email every week. I've not had an email apart from just people trying to sell us some better YouTube's stuff, but I'm more keen to hear from you guys, the listeners, so do drop us a line. And if you're watching and you want to improve our SEO reach on YouTube, just drop us a message, let us know all the ways we can improve, and Kyle and I can just implement that. Thanks, guys. You're doing it for free. What a great service. Right, joking apart, massive thanks to you guys for watching. Kyle, what's your final thoughts for today?
No, I'm looking forward to filming next week's. If we get to see what I've kind of had a sneak peek at, we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Great. I can't wait. Right, guys, we will see each and every one of you next week. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, Subscribe so you don't miss next week's uploads, because we're going to keep deep diving these amazing topics. Can't wait to see you then.
Bye.
Ciao.